life of love,
Life of love.
with Hilsen.
Dear God, Source Creator, thank you for bringing us together today. I'm so excited to collaborate with Andrea and bring forth a message that serves humanity. Please work through us and for us to bring forth that message for the highest good and to reach the ears that need to hear and the hearts that wish to soften to our message. Help us to increase the energy grid on this earth so that we can bring forth a consciousness that is loving and sustainable and just what the golden earth deserves. As we bring forth our hearts and collaborate in this special production, I'm honored to have Andrea's team with me today, and I ask my team to come forward so we can collaborate for the highest good. Please take what serves you and leave what doesn't, and just know that you're supported in your life of love, and we're pouring our hearts into this episode. Your attention matters, and the sharing of these messages matters as we all contribute to this beautiful light grid. Thank you. So it is.
So
Yay.
it is.
Hello, dear friends, and welcome to Life of Love, where we gather each week to bring forth messages from our higher selves, our soul teams, and collaborate with other like-minded, conscious beings who wish to help humanity. And so I just honor Andrea Ramirez is with us today from Portugal, and she's living with her divinity and expanding people's knowledge of what's going on in our consciousness, what we could be. She works with hypnotherapy, and she's also helping with an app. And so she's going to share her divine feminine contribution, because we all know that this new age is more about balance between masculine and feminine, but sometimes our feminine gets buried with the energy of production and possibly, being overshadowed by a stronger force, which the feminine is strong, but sometimes it's more of a subtle, until we get pushed against the wall, and then all of a sudden feminine gets so we can talk about that. But Andrea, thank you for being on Life of Love. I'm so excited to share your message with my audience.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm very happy to share with you today.
Yay. Well, I feel that. And, we were just talking in the pre-interview, and I'm just excited for you to share what you know about our ability to be present. And so in the light of consciousness and subconsciousness, and you had some really interesting insights onto that. But before we get into that, I don't want to forget, I would love for you to share something about yourself that maybe you don't tell everybody all the time, but something that led to you being on this path of understanding what consciousness is. Did you feel like maybe you were unconscious for part of your life, or has this been something that you've always known it's on your heart to share? I'd love to hear your journey as, with that hero story.
Well, so I was born in Chile in the 80s. It was still the dictatorship at that time. So it was a very gray society. That's how I like to call it. And I've always been very sensitive to energy since I'm a very young child. I could see energies, interact with energies. I could hear messages and have dreams of things that were going to happen and all this kind of stuff. And it gave me a very strong sense of connection and an identity that didn't necessarily have to do with my, let's say, human, societal, or family identity. And I think that was kind of put there on purpose because I grew up in a household with a narcissistic mother. And for a young child, it's a very difficult situation to live through. You learn a lot of coping strategies that could become and do become toxic as you grow up. But in the same hand, having this divine connection helped me kept my sense of worth more or less intact. Long story short, all this trauma that was experienced growing up kind of came out to play when I started having my own company, when I started having my own relationships. And at some point in 2018, I ended up in the hospital. I've always been super healthy. I never had not even like a cold a year. And suddenly I had to be admitted in the hospital because I was dying. I was 3 days away from kidney failure. And I spent a whole month in the hospital. I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, ulcerative colitis. I was misdiagnosed for most part of the year. So I've been losing blood for many months, thinking it was something else completely. But this month I spent in the hospital was actually very enlightening. I always say it's probably one of the best months of my life. Although I was in so much pain and going through all this situation, it gave me time to understand why this was happening to me. And I discovered the work of Dr. Gabor Mate. He's an Hungarian doctor and he works a lot with trauma. And he says that 80% of all autoimmune diseases in the world, women have them. And it's not a coincidence. It's societal conditioning, is the fact that unlike what they tell us on the plane that we should put the oxygen mask first and then put it on the other people, us women go around putting the oxygen mask on everyone else before putting it on ourselves. And so this create a lot of emotions, including anger suppression, all of this being suppressed in our bodies, in our organs, and our body is a living thing. Our cells are living things. They have consciousness. They do remember. And at some point, when our mind just goes wild and we go through the world burning out, our body says, stop, it's enough. And this is how I got to understand more about how subconscious mind works and the role of it in how we build our lives based on our childhood experiences. And it was so fascinating that led me to experience hypnotherapy on myself. And I loved it so much that I actually decided to become a hypnotherapist. And this is how I ended up then later meeting these other two women that have been through similar experiences from different walks of life, and then coming together to create this app to help other women and support other women to overcome burnout, to sleep better, to have more confidence, to get rid of anxiety and all these kind of things, always with this spiritual silver lining, so to speak, because in the end, we're spiritual beings and self-care is a very spiritual thing to do because we are divine. We're honoring the divine in ourselves when we take care of ourselves. So that's basically like a short story of how I ended up here.
So beautiful. And what a testament to our spirit guides. Like your soul tribe protected you through your childhood to maintain your ability to function and survive in that environment. Gosh, there's so many threads to what you shared, and it's such a beautiful journey. And it is a hero's journey because you took your illness and your month in the hospital, and it sounds like you created a new life path and more sustainable, more healthy way to be in the world, and you're helping other people. So I didn't realize that Chile was you said it was a communist or dictatorship?
Yeah, it was a dictatorship from 74 to 89.
Okay, so then you left there as an adult, or when did you go over to Europe?
I left Chile in 2000 to work on cruise ships and expedition boats. I have a little bit of an Indiana Jones thing.
Gotcha.
And I lived for some time also abroad. And then I went back to Chile. And then at some point I came to Barcelona to live, I think in 2005. And I've been
Okay.
here since then.
I mean, it's just so interesting in that the path that you chose, and then when you were in the hospital, you were in Barcelona, or were you in?
I was in Barcelona, yes.
And so I can just sense the angels that were there helping you to see what you needed to see. Like you hit this wall and you're just like, wow. So when you're helping women understand their consciousness and the autoimmune disease. And that's is so relatable because there's so many women that struggle with this, with Crohn's disease, with hyperactive bowel syndrome and all that. And it sounds like you were bleeding from your intestines.
Yeah.
And that was slowly killing you. But there's always there's the medical, like, we've got to stabilize the person. But then you're saying there's a spiritual, like, how do I not get to this place again? And
Absolutely.
you've found that.
Yes, medicine is good for helping with trauma, something traumatic. You break an arm, then you can go to a doctor, it can fix it. You cut yourself, they can fix it. But there is a whole other side of medicine that has to do not only with prevention, but also how we help ourselves and sustain ourselves energetically, emotionally, physically, in a way that is healthy, but not healthy in the sense of toxic positivity. Because in the spiritual world, there is a lot of that. There is a lot of putting the negative, the shadow, the ugly under the rug and cover everything with love and light, which is not healthy at all. A great part of my healing came through working with those spots that were in the shadow to bring light to that wound. If you have a wound in your body and you put it under some sort of tape, or if you try to wrap it under clothing, or you try to put a plastic or whatever it is over it, that wound is going to fester and it's going to infect and it's going to kill you. The same way when we have our inner wounds, for a wound to heal, we need to air that wound. We need to see that wound. We need to put that wound under the sunlight for it to heal, for it to dry, for it to slowly turn into scar tissue and fall off. And in the same way, our inner shadows, our inner wounds need to be showered with the light of consciousness in a way that is non-judgmental but curious, to ask, what is it that brought me to this point in my life? Why is it that I feel what I feel when I'm, faced with these situations, with these words, with these images, with these people, with these circumstances? And kindly go and walk through them. And if we cannot do it alone, to find help, to walk together and go through the process of putting this light on that wound. And then over time, it will heal. And maybe those wounds become your superpower in the way that it happened to me. If I would have not gone through that traumatic experience, the universe didn't let me fall and burn and crash completely. The universe just put me close enough to the fire for me to understand what's happening, why it's happening, and was gracious and wonderful to put me in a path where I met a lot of people that were aligned with this path that I'm in, that actually helped me heal. I think we all have the capacity to heal because the universe gave us this incredibly resilient body. And we should think more of self-care, not as something like, okay, I did the laundry, now I'm going to get a chai latte, but more like, okay, I'm tired, I'm going to sleep. I am too nervous, I'm going to take a warm shower. I am too hyped up, I'm going to breathe, I'm going to feel my body, and I'm going to send myself as much love as I need. So to go back to center is to go back into ourselves, to go back to that spirit, to that divinity inside us. And I think our subconscious mind is aching to that divine mind. It's like a spark from the divine that lives within us because it's incredibly creative, incredibly powerful. And that is why we can shift our mindset and shift our health so quickly, because it sends signals through all our body in order to make us better, to heal.
I love that metaphor. I mean, we can't see our emotional pain, our feelings, our reactions. And so it's easy to shove them in a corner, like you said, or wrap a bandage around a wound. And we all know that that's, when we say it, We know it doesn't make sense, but we do it all the time because it's nothing that we can set on the table and say, okay, this is a hot mess. Like, this is a hot mess. You're going in 5 different directions. We can't put our hands on it. But more and more, these things that are intangible, that we can't touch, that we can't give to someone else, we can't put them in a box. They're becoming more and more upfront, and we're becoming more transparent with emotions. And it's a beautiful opportunity for our mass consciousness to say, yes, we're ready to do this. As humanity, we're going to do this because there's shame, there's pain, there's guilt, there's even positive emotions that we haven't let ourselves feel because we're scared if we experience them so much, we're going to reach our level and we're going to like run out of those tokens. Like we think that there's this illusion of lack of happiness. And that's also part of programming and deciding that is that your voice or not, because you could be listening to the voice that's not your divinity, is what I'm hearing. And it can make you sick by running and pushing things. I call it the emotional trash compactor. Like, I'll deal with that feeling later. Yeah, my friend did that to me, but I'm not going to call her out because I'm just not ready to get in a fight. I just don't have the energy to stand up for myself.
Yeah.
If you don't have the energy to stand up for yourself, then there's something going on. I'm just going to be very clear. And you don't want to be like that person that's antagonizing or mean or starting fights. But if you see something, if something hits you in a way that you're like, that was sort of rude, you can give grace. You can say, did you just say that? Like,
exactly.
Did I hear this correctly? Instead of going to victim, I'm being, attacked. You can be like, hey, is that really where you're coming from? Did you mean to say it that way? And that's a totally different situation than just taking an insult and thinking about later going, man, she's really been a jerk to me. If we can be in the moment and say, hey, this is how this hits me. Did you mean it? Just what are you, because half the time we're just knee jerk reacting to something else, and we can give our friends a chance to vent what they need to vent. And then, it's like this cycle of compassion, grace, and understanding that we can extend if we're willing to go to that uncomfortableness and just being honest. And it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah,
Love
and
it.
that's called healthy anger. And that is something that as women we are so used to repressed. And that is what makes us sick in the long run. They say, and I won't deal with this right now, I will deal with it later, but maybe that later never comes. But that's imprint, that anger stays, your body remembers. And then one day when that, like you say, that trash can is full, this is when suddenly you have an autoimmune disease, you have skin problems, you have brain fog. Something happens in your body that it's telling you, stop, clean the trash can, and don't be afraid to be your true self. Like you said, be your true self doesn't mean to be this antagonizing person that is snapping back at everything. It simply is having this healthy anger to go in front of the person to say, this is how I feel. Is this what you meant? Can you repeat what you said? And clear it in the moment. Even biologically, our bodies are wired to experience, to feel the feels we feel for 90 seconds. That is 1 minute and a half. Everything else is rumination. Rumination is the thing that cows do when they eat their grass and you see them chewing and chewing and chewing. That's rumination. And that's what we do because we get stuck. And nobody tells us that our body is not designed for that. And that also makes us sick.
So biologically, I love this. You get a minute and a half to feel what you're feeling. What if everyone just took a time out and said, I need a minute and a half to digest this? I have a question.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly. Or if you are mad, you get a phone call, you see that email, you have that interaction with the person that you can say, you know what? Give me a minute. Give me a minute. and go for a walk, do some squat, do some breath work, get this cortisol out of your system. And our brain rewards us when we do that, when we don't keep that anger, when we then don't keep that cortisol inside, because our bodies are ancient. So it's this feeling of there is an urgency that I need to defend myself, but I cannot run. I cannot scream, at least not in our society. So what do? Well, we can take a walk. We can literally breathe. We can do squats. And when we do that, we take care of that cortisol that is rushing all over our body. And our brain says, oh, okay, so you did run, you did your work. Now I'm going to give you reward hormones. And now we get the happy hormones. And now we have the clarity to see, did this person really mean that? I'm going to go and find out. And to address the things that trigger us in a more clear way, from a clearer standpoint, not from the standpoint of being completely mad and to have our brain swimming in stress hormones.
And you mentioned before that the spiritual hygiene, and it's so relative because we brush our teeth, we go to the dentist, we get the systems of our bodies checked out, we go for eye exams, like all these things, but our spirituality is also a part of our health and our well-being. So raising awareness that it is something to maintain and to spend some time every day understanding that your spirituality, your aura, your energetic field is taking all this on. I would love for you to expand on what you were talking about with our subconscious and how much we're taking in all the time, because you had great insight onto that too.
Yeah, so we think we are using our conscious mind most of the day, most of the time. The reality is that we're only using our conscious mind 5% in the whole day. The other 95% is our subconscious mind that is in control. This means that there is a 95% chance that everything that we are observing, listening to, when we do the doom scrolling, when we're watching the news, or when we are in the middle of conversations that aren't very nice with other people, that although with our conscious mind we say, this doesn't affect me, I know how to live this outside of my scope of attention. Your subconscious mind is absorbing everything, is taking everything in. So I like to think of the doom scrolling, for example, that people go into this, okay, show me something fun. I want to see videos of cats and dogs doing cute things. And your conscious mind says, I'm only going to focus on that. But in between, there are videos of, I don't know, politicians or accidents or whatever it is that you are not interested in. And you say consciously, I'm fine because my focus is only in dogs and cats. But your subconscious mind is absorbing absolutely everything that you are scrolling through, whether it's cats, politicians, accidents, anything. It's going into your subconscious. When we're listening to music, sometimes we don't understand the lyrics or we don't pay attention to the lyrics because the music feels so good. All those lyrics, if you would listen to them before or read them before you listen to the song, you might not even listen to the song. This is all programming going into your subconscious mind, becoming the blueprint of your life. So why do we feel sad? Why are we scared? Why are we down? Why are we sad or scared or whatever? Take a look at what you've been watching. Take a look at the history of the songs you've been listening to. Look into the lyrics. They don't talk about greatness, happiness, and healthy love. Most of them talk about the absolute contrary. And then also how we expose ourselves to different people, different situations, even when we know we should not go to that place, we shouldn't hang out with these people, or to be in certain physical spaces that are not good for our energy. So even though we think we're in power, we are not. And we need to be intentional about how we conduct our lives every day. And by that is not only conduct in terms of being well educated and polite, but what we are consuming. Everything that we're consuming, not just the foods, not just the water, the music, the videos we're watching, the movies, because when we're watching movies, our brain waves get slower too, and that takes us into some sort of hypnotic like state. So what does it mean? We are recording all that drama in our brain, in our subconscious brain, and then it's going to manifest in our nervous system, and we're going to be walking around spreading that kind of energy and living it, which is the worst because we are not that movie. And what was the point of creating that movie in the first place? We need to be extremely critical of everything we watch. Where is it coming from? And why is the purpose of having so much violence, so much sex violence, so much darkness, so many horror movies? What's the point of that? To keep us vibrationally on the floor. So we don't have the energy. So we can't be this divine being that we came here to be, because we are a spark of the divine here on earth. So in one hand, our brain is a wonderful thing. But like I said before, our brain is not here to make us happy. Our brain is here to help us survive. What does it mean? Naturally, it's going to go into a negative train of thought. So what do? Consciously, we're going to take our brain and we're going to consume things that are good for us. Songs that have meaningful lyrics that I can relate to. I take control of this. I'm going to watch movies, documentaries that are good for me, that are good for my nervous system, that are going to give me value for my life, that are going to keep my energy high. I'm going to hang out in places and spaces that are vibrationally high. And always, if you know you're going to go to a place that might be because you have no choice, maybe there's a meeting or something, to put your protection around you, to always go with that high vibrational state everywhere you go, because that's going to be your shield. That's going to be your protection. And it comes with the consciousness of understanding that you are in a place or a position that you need to pay attention to what's happening, and you need to pay attention how is this affecting you, so you can effectively cleanse and clear yourself from that afterwards, not only energetically, but also in the mind, also in our subconscious mind, because everything that happens in the brain is just communicating to our nervous system, and our nervous system goes into our senses, and our senses is how we perceive our 3D world. So it's very, very, very important to be very mindful and responsible for our health, for what we consume in all realms, not just food, not just water.
It's a level up. And I'm so glad you're talking about this. And I was wondering, well, first of all, I had two questions. One was, what is the most toxic social environment? Like, if we used to have malls here in the US where people go to the mall and there's inside stores and not much beauty, maybe a few rubber plants. But to me, that was the first thing that came up. And they'd have like fast food and pizza places that were horrible, and video games. I used to have an arcade, but like now, like what would you say would be a toxic social? Would it be a loud nightclub with sounding music, or what comes to mind that would be something you'd really want to guard? And then once you know you are going to go here because you want to meet your friends, or you're going to be in a not optimal frequency, explain how you would guard yourself. So those are the two things.
Yes. So in terms of toxicity, is also very personal, because some people are usually more affected than others. This is very personal. It's like having some sort of energetic immune system. So some people's immune system is stronger, some people's is weaker. We can work on it. We can all make it stronger, but we're all slightly different, or we all have our little things here and there. One is more allergic, the other not so much, and so on. But everywhere that there are crowds of people, it's always, for sure, there's going to be some level of toxicity. But when there are places that people are also consuming alcohol or consuming drugs, and let's say a club, like you mentioned, right? Maybe the songs, the messages in the songs, the intention of the creation of the song, the vibrational frequency of the song, then the people that go to this place just to forget about the world and completely get blasted. What happens when we consume alcohol or take drugs is that our subconscious mind is like a house and we leave all the doors and the windows open. What happens when we leave the doors and the windows open of our house? Anything can go in, get out, or sneak in and stay there. So there is a lot of these kind of parasites, energy parasites, if you will, flying over this energy mass of people, just kind of waiting to go down and play. And sometimes they stick to people, sometimes they don't. And so these are highly parasitic places. Other places that are specifically that I'm not too popular in this opinion, but also certain places where some energy practices are done in groups. Certain activations of certain things, certain channelings of energy. Some of these practices are very ego based, and the energies that are channeled are egregores. Egregores is what happens, for example, in a stadium, the energy that you see in a stadium when somebody is playing football or somebody is having a concert. Everybody's creating and focusing the same energy for this one team, for the love for this one person. And this creates an energy being in itself, if you will.
Okay.
And so when these places where these energetic practices of activations and downloads and whatever things are experienced, sometimes these are egregores. These are ego-based deities or energies that are channeled and put into the other person, thinking that you are healing them, you're helping them, you're activating their centers, chakras, whatever. I don't want to say the specific word, but those are ego-based practices, and they are highly, highly parasitic. I have been to a couple of these places because I thought I have to try this for myself. I have to see this for myself. And I cannot tell you the level of toxicity. And I felt so sorry because this was most people's first spiritual energy healing experience. And it might not come and hit them now, but maybe in the long run, it could be that they will feel deeply disappointed because it did not give them value. It actually took the energy from them. And that's what I mean by parasitic places and spaces. So everywhere where it's too crowded and some energy healing or channeling or activations practices that are becoming very popular, unfortunately, please do your research, find out where they're coming from, really, truly. And if one person decided to channel it and is charging 15,000 euros to make you a facilitator, don't go, because that's a business. That's not spiritual. There it is. I said it. Now, in
Okay,
terms
good.
of protection.
Thank you. I mean, it's so relative, and like it is energetic, and we all need to pay. We have to pay our bills, and we need abundance, but there's a difference. And I've fallen for it too.
Many people
And
do. Yeah,
yeah,
because
and
it seems
it
fine.
felt bad. Like at first I was like, yeah, this is great. And then as I energetically connected to this entity, I'm going to call it an entity. It's an energy entity.
Mm-hmm.
It was an ego-based situation. It just felt wrong.
Yeah.
And I had to cut the cords.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really curious, and I appreciate you bringing this forward, because a lot of times there's sports teams that you root for. Again, we don't realize how powerful our intentions are, and to wish another person to do worse. They're going to miss that shot. They're,
Mm-hmm.
like that's all putting out energetic daggers. I don't know if you believe in karma, but I do
Absolutely.
believe. Yeah, it's like,
Absolutely. Yes.
what kind of karma are you incurring there? And then there's drinking, which lowers your shield, and there are darker energies that feed off of the lower vibration of that kind of thing. So I appreciate you bringing this forward, because it is hard to hear, but then it's also it shows how powerful you are. So you making a conscious choice of how you want to use your energy, and in your cheering is, it's not that you don't cheer for your team. You cheer for a good effort, for sportsmanship. You don't cheer for someone to lose.
Exactly, because
It's a
we
different.
are so conditioned for thousands of years as a society to pit against each other. And this is what governments do. This is what companies do. This is what organizations do, which is in a way very patriarchal as well. It's very masculine energy. It's not very feminine and integrative. It's not curious. It's very judgmental. So I think we have this so internalized that it really takes an effort to make a change and to be in a different standpoint and to be standing in your true power, not in this power over others, but power over yourself. That's the real power. So it's work. It's like developing a muscle. You have to go to the gym. You have to lift weights. It hurts. You're going to be sore, but that's how it works. You have to be very intentional about it.
So how would you say you needed to go? Your nephew was going to play a football match, and you had to go, and you knew there was going to be dads there being very patriarchal. And how would you shield your energy field to prepare for that, or explain your process? As in, I failed to mention how you're a medium also. So I want people to appreciate where you're coming from, because you're sensing things beyond what the person who isn't so in tuned might feel or sense. So yeah, this is delightful. Thank you.
So when it comes to energy protection, some people like to call on angels and all these kind of things. I like to go straight and call divine source energy. So I call divine source energy, and then I ask for it to feel my body and to be around my energy field like a gigantic pyramid of white divine light, where no low vibration can cross that threshold. When my energy field is completely illuminated with this divine light, where my thought processes and my emotions are all infused with this divinity. And I always say, divine, if you want to send your angels and your guardians around me, put them around, whether I can see them or not. I don't need to know their names or what their status or hierarchy is. Put whatever you feel is best around me. And I do the same kind of protective shield around the people I love, even my dog. I always put her in this protection because I'm a paranoid dog mom. So I'm always thinking, okay, I'll put a protection on her just in case. And this is one way to do it. You can imagine that you are inside a bubble of divine light. You can imagine something that I really like, that you are inside this kind of a box that's made of mirrors. So the mirrors are looking outside. So every energy that comes to you is simply reflected back out. It cannot touch you. So I like to use these two primarily because I find them to be very powerful. And when you're consciously connected with that protection, you actually can see how people kind of bounce off of you. And even if they come very close, they can't, let's say, energetically touch you. So those are the two things that I like to do the most.
So valuable. Thank you. It really does. I've done the white bubble. I'm surrounded with a white bubble, and I put it around my children, especially when they first started driving. Oh my gosh, you should have seen the bubble. Yeah. So, and my parents when they drive, because I worry about them driving, they're getting older, and it's like that's what's become so valuable to me and in my life is that ability to ask. And you don't have to ask perfectly, but that intention that I'm divine, that I deserve source protection, and knowing that there are things around us that serve as parasites, vampires. It's not that vampires like sucking blood out of your neck, but they're energy vampires nonetheless. And once you start to tune into it, you're like, whoa, holy cow. I was at the airport and I had a really rude lady at the Delta Sky Lounge. Like, she was upset with me because I didn't show her my husband's voucher first off. I showed her mine and then I was going to get to the voucher, but she did not like the way I presented my voucher it was like 6 a.m.
Oh,
And I was like, maybe I'm not functioning 100% at 6 a.m. But I felt her daggers. I felt her energetically, like, really aggressive toward me. It was almost like she shoved me energetically, and I'm sensitive. And I looked at her. I said, I'm so sorry. Can we start over? And she's like, no. All right, I get it. And the universe was giving me this opportunity to do self-care and to, work through that and then actually cut the cords of her anger toward me, which was, I was not coming from anything other than, I'm just going to show you my phone to get into the Sky Lounge and get myself a cup of coffee, like whatever. So it's really interesting. And sometimes these opportunities take you by surprise.
Yeah. And this is when we need to be very conscious and remember to return that energy, return to sender. Like, this is not mine. Every time this happens to me, I'm like, this is not mine. This is hers. I send it back and I stand in my power. And I get a little pissed off because healthy anger is healthy.
Mm-hmm.
I send it back. But then I also said, you know what? Please help her.
Give yourself 90 seconds to feel
Your feels.
feel. Yeah, we're not telling everyone light and love, white bubbles all the time. Like,
No.
things can get through, and then it's just transmute that. Like, yeah, and I did have compassion. She was older and she might have had arthritis, or, if she's walking around throwing daggers, she probably has some kind of inflammatory situation going on, or who knows? Like, and I was like, I'm not going to report her. I'm not going to report her. I'm not going to get revenge.
Yeah, in the end, we're all fighting our battles. We're all in different levels of struggle, or internal or external. And so as we give ourselves grace, we can give grace to others, but we can also be very clear when somebody is just out of line.
Yeah. So, oh my gosh, we're up to our time, but I wanted you to share your amazing app and how listeners can connect with you, because you're such a bright, inspiring soul. And I would hope that anyone who resonates with your message would want to dive in a little deeper and get to know your mission a little better, because you are magical. You're wonderful. You're like I don't know, I'm getting like Mother Mary or Mary Magdalene energy from you. And it's just beautiful.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. Well, people can go to the app. It's called magicalaudios.com. We have 3 programs out, one for sleep, one for confidence/anxiety, and another one for burnout. But we also have a wonderful library of 70 plus different audios, not just self-hypnosis, but meditation, ho'oponopono, visualization, affirmations. So it's absolutely wonderful. So that's the app. It's usually for women, but it was done in a way that men can also listen to it. And we have also lots of men subscribed and buying the programs, which is really, really good. It feels very good. And to connect with me, you can go to andreahypno.com, which is short for hypnosis, andreahypno.com. And all my information is there. You can learn more about myself and what I do. And I'm super excited because I will become something called Future Life Practitioner, which is a form of hypnosis/remote viewing that people can do to see into their future, how they expect their life to be, or how they would like their life to be, even into future lifetimes. So it's really interesting. I think it's very energizing and very healing. And I'm super excited that I'm going to be able to do this from next month on.
Everyone does past life regressions, but why not do future life projection? I love that.
Yes, I'm so over past regressions and things. Let's look into the future. Let's energize ourselves.
I love it. Well, thank you so much. This has been such a delight.
Thank you so much. I'm having so much fun.
Me too.